to Mandalore.
There's nothing left. Go home. A clan of two. But you have removed your helmet. Then you are a Mandalorian no more. Your cult fractured our people. Where were you then? Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
Season 4, yeah, I've written it already. We have to know where we're going to tell a fully formed story. So we had mapped it out, Dave and I, and then slowly you just write each episode. So I was writing it during post-production, and that, because all of it has to feel like a continuation and one full story. And then he's doing Ahsoka, which I'm producing with him, but he's the writer, showrunner on that. And so to understand what's happening on other shows or even Skeleton Crew, all take place in the same Star Wars time period. So there's a lot more things that we have to keep in mind, and stuff that we've built up to from previous seasons of The Mandalorian as well.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is The Way. They released new Mandalorian Season 3 trailer footage. We'll break it down. We also have a teaser for The Mandalorian Season 4. Like the clip I put at the beginning of that is literally Jon Favreau talking about The Mandalorian Season 4. I'll explain what's going on with that because we haven't even gotten Season 3 yet and they're talking about Season 4. So I'll explain what kind of plot they're going to be covering by the time we get to Season 4. Rosario Dawson also revealed a bunch of details about the Ahsoka episodes coming later this year. I'll explain that too. If you're brand new to the channel, I'll be doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. But the new footage is of Bo-Katan trying to discourage Mando from going back to the planet Mandalore, basically telling him the exact opposite of what the armorer is telling him he has to do in order to regain his honor and become a true Mandalorian again. The whole thing here is that Bo-Katan basically believes the exact opposite of what the armorer believes in, and they're like diametric opposites sitting on Mando's shoulders, his Beskar armor shoulders telling him what to do. With him having to choose a path, he's basically being given similar choices, or the same vibe of the choices is what Grogu was given by Luke Skywalker. Like, which path are you choosing? The Beskar armor or Yoda's lightsaber, the path of the Jedi or the path of the Mandalorians? Grogu essentially chose the Mando, like going back to the Mando, over choosing Luke Skywalker in the Jedi training. He'll continue to train in the Force. Jon Favreau was pretty clear about that. Like, no, he's gotten way more powerful since the end of the Book of Boba Fett, and there has been a time jump since the end of Book of Boba Fett when Mando Season 3 picks up. The way he described that, he said there's been enough time for Grogu to become even more powerful. So all the Force abilities that you saw Grogu using at the end of Book of Boba Fett, he'll be way more powerful than that. But he's still ramping up. This is still very early days for Grogu. Obviously, he's going to become much more powerful in his lifetime. But just because he's not with Luke Skywalker doing traditional Jedi training doesn't mean that he's not training in the Force. In the trailers, when Bo-Katan says there's nothing left there for you, there is no more home, she's talking about the slag that the Empire turned the planet Mandalore into. You see some of the wreckage of their dome city, or one of their dome cities. That's meant to be the same one that we saw during the Clone Wars. The reason they had a dome city is because they'd already bombed the hell out of their planet in previous wars from thousands and thousands of years ago. The dome was because the planet itself wasn't that habitable to begin with. But what wound up happening is that during the events of the original trilogy, the Empire basically bombed the hell out of it. They call that the Great Purge, because Bo-Katan, who was leading them at that point because she had the Darksaber, they covered that during the events of the Rebel series. She united the remaining Mandalorian factions at the end of the Rebel series, and it seemed like a big rallying cry for them, like, yay, they're gonna be awesome now. But during the events of the original trilogy, the Emperor wanted them to capitulate, like he wanted the Mandalorians to serve him, and they wouldn't do that. Bo-Katan turned him down, so in retaliation for that, he had Moff Gideon, who was working with the Imperial Security Bureau. We saw their group during the Andor series. Moff Gideon came from the Imperial Security Bureau before he became a Moff. He had them orchestrate the Great Purge of Mandalore, where he basically bombed the entire planet, trying to kill all of them. While that was happening, it sounds like Moff Gideon pilfered the planet for everything that he could because the Emperor also wanted their Beskar. So essentially, the Emperor's grand plan for the Mandalorians was to take their Beskar, their troops, their weapons, so he could make stronger troopers, which Moff Gideon and Grand Admiral Thrawn are now trying to complete in present day. They covered that during the first couple of seasons. The reason why Beskar was so rare is because the Empire had stolen most of their Beskar from the planet. But it also gets into the whole idea of the Grogu cloning storyline during the first couple of seasons, and the idea that the Emperor wanted to create stronger troopers using cloning techniques and the Force. So you imagine them combining all those ideas with the Beskar armor and the Mandalorians' weapons, their fighting techniques. It would basically made invincible clone troopers that are Force sensitive. I think that was the idea with the Dark Troopers during Season 2, the whole idea that the Empire, Moff Gideon, Grand Admiral Thrawn were slowly trying to create more and more powerful troopers that were easier for them to control. And ultimately, it's just easier for them to control either robots, cyborgs, or clones than it is for regular troopers. They also confirmed that they're going to answer definitively who saved Grogu at the Jedi Temple during Order 66, and that's what all these new Order 66 flashbacks are for him. The most likely candidates so far that we've seen are the Jedi Librarian, who we've already seen in flashbacks, probably not Mace Windu, because the Star Wars people have actually joked about this way too much recently. Losing his arm, falling from that high of a height, and then dragging his way to the Jedi Temple to continue trying to save all these other Jedi. Anakin Skywalker is a maybe, like saving Grogu himself, basically allowing him to escape. Not purposely saving him, but just allowing him to get away. Yoda was on Kashyyyk during Order 66, so it wasn't him. Yaddle was killed by Count Dooku during the events of Attack of the Clones, so it wasn't her. And now one of my leading theories after the events of the Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes is that it could have been Quinlan Vos. He was name-dropped during the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as a Jedi who'd escaped Order 66, and ever since then, like it'd been about 10 years since Revenge of the Sith when Obi-Wan Kenobi picks up, that whole time he'd been helping other Force-sensitive people in the underground space railroad, basically, avoid capture by Darth Vader, the Emperor, and the Inquisitors. And that's basically what happened with Grogu, like he basically went into hiding in the Outer Rim using that same type of underground railroad that the Jedi were using. But it seems like one of the main goals of Season 3 is to have Mando regain his honor, like he'll go back to the planet Mandalore and fulfill the requirements of the armor, but then slowly choose his own path, because Bo-Katan is also yelling in his ear about what he needs to be doing with the Darksaber, rallying their people so that they can fight the remnants of the Empire, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Moff Gideon, retake the planet. So there's a bunch of stuff on his to-do list during Season 3. Talking about the events of Season 4, so here's where we get to the Season 4 plot. Mando will probably have already regained his honor. Like I said, they'll probably take care of that during Season 3. He'll still probably have the Darksaber, so both factions of Mandalorians, Bo-Katan's faction and the Armor's faction, will be more willing to follow him. Grogu will be way more powerful, like he'll continue to get more powerful through Season 3, and there'll probably be like a small time jump between Season 3 and Season 4 again, just because they've been doing that the past couple of seasons. We'll probably already have met Grand Admiral Thrawn, either like a teaser at the end of the Mandalorian Season 3 and more fully during the Ahsoka series, or they'll just wait to the Ahsoka series to show him on screen. And we'll know more about his grand plan to take control of the galaxy, again under a new empire that they're trying to form. Like I said, the overarching plot with Grand Admiral Thrawn seems like they're trying to do a version of the Heir to the Empire trilogy, like the original Thrawn trilogy, but in this time period of the Mandalorian. So if you've read those novels, something similar to that, like some of the storylines from that adapted with different characters. Moff Gideon is supposed to return in Force, so he'll probably be more powerful again in Season 4 with Grand Admiral Thrawn. They also teased that he would have Mandalorian-inspired armor upgrades, so the whole idea is that he has this very Darth Vader-inspired armor in the first couple of seasons. During Season 3, I believe, he's supposed to debut some more Mandalorian Beskar-inspired armor designs. I think the vibe of that will be closer to the Mandalorian Super Commandos. Those were initially the ones that served Darth Maul, the Mandalorians that sided with Darth Maul, and then later wound up serving the Emperor. And it sounds like they plan to release Season 4 at the end of next year, because they're going to start filming it in October this year, which gives them more than enough time to finish the season before the end of next year. Which is great, which means we don't have to wait like 2 years before we get the next season. There are rumors that they're filming the Book of Boba Fett Season 2 because they're building a new version of his ship, the Slave One, and his armor, but they could just be building that for The Mandalorian Season 4. Rosario Dawson also teased that the Ahsoka series release date is going to be in the fall, which is basically any time between September and the end of the year. She was talking about fall in the United States.
I'm excited. I'm nervous about it.
And you have a spinoff just for your character.
Ahsoka, yeah, that's going to probably come out in the fall.
The past several months, they've been saying that the Skeleton Crew series, which also takes place in the same time period, Jon Favreau talked about at the beginning of this clip. That stars Jude Law and a bunch of other characters in a different part of the galaxy, like those characters won't show up during The Mandalorian Season 3 before they show up on the Skeleton Crew series. They've been saying that that's going to release at the very end of 2023 this year, but they could always wind up delaying that just because they made a couple schedule changes with the way that Marvel and Star Wars people release their series. So they could wait till the end of the year to release the Ahsoka episodes, or they could release that in like September or October and get all 8 episodes of that out and then release Skeleton Crew around the same time they started releasing the Book of Boba Fett Season 1. Either way, there's going to be a bunch of Star Wars stuff happening towards the end of this year. And there will be multiple seasons of the Ahsoka series, like it'll run for like 3, 4, hopefully 5 or more seasons. They're also supposed to announce what the next Star Wars movie is going to be, and that's supposed to come out in 2025, at the end of 2025. A lot of that will get announced around Star Wars Day this year. I think that's when we're going to get the first Ahsoka trailer as well. I've actually already done a video on the leaked trailer that they released. You can click here to learn about that. And click here for that opening scene from The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. This is the way.